Welcome back to the Company Law Lecture Series, where in today's lecture we will be starting with Unit 3, which is Management and Control of Companies. And this will be the first lecture of this lecture series for this unit, where I will be explaining you the board meetings, board composition and some case laws related to it. So let's start with the lecture. Introduction to Company Meetings. A number of meetings are convened in a company and are generally classified as members' meetings, directors' meetings, and other meetings. Members' meetings include the annual general meeting, which is the mandatory meeting of the members that every company is required to convene each year. However, there exists no embargo on holding more than one general meeting of the members, which are called the extraordinary general meetings. The meetings of the directors are called the board meetings, and the meetings of the committees of the directors are the committee meetings. Other meetings include creditors' meetings and class meetings. The focus of the Companies Act 2013 has been on enhancing transparency, shareholders' democracy, and protection of the interest of the investors. It has made few changes for regulating meetings. For example, the requirement for holding a statutory meeting of members at the time of commencement of business of a company for any public company required under Companies Act 1956 has been done away with. The concepts of video conferencing and e-voting have been introduced. Now coming to the board of directors, the board of directors of a company is a nucleus selected according to the procedure prescribed in the Act and the Articles of Association. Members of the board of directors are known as directors who, unless especially authorized by the board of directors of the company, do not possess any power of management of the affairs of the company. The board of directors oversees how the management serves and protects the long-term interest of the stakeholders of the company. The institution of board of directors is based on the premise that a group of trustworthy people look after the interests of the large number of shareholders who are not directly involved in the management of the company. The position of board of directors is that of trust, as the board is entrusted with the responsibility to act in the best interest of the company. Acting collectively as a board of directors, they can exercise all the powers of the company except those which are prescribed by the Act to be specifically exercised by the company in general meeting. The board formulate policies and establish organizational setup for implementing these policies and to achieve the objectives contained in the memorandum, muster resources for achieving the company objectives and control, guide, direct, and manage the affairs of the company. Section 2 Clause 10 of the Companies Act 2013 defines that Board of Directors or Board in relation to a company means the collective body of the directors of the company. The term Board of Directors means a body duly constituted to direct, control, and supervise the affairs of a company. As per Section 149 of the Companies Act 2013, the Board of Directors of every company shall consist of individuals only. Thus, no body, corporate, association, or firm shall be appointed as director. Now let's talk about directors' meetings. Board meetings under Section 173 read with Rules 3 and 4 of the Companies Meetings of Board and its Power 2014. The Board of Directors of a company are responsible for overseeing the management of the company and thereby exercise their power of day-to-day decision making by convening and holding board meetings. Within 30 days of their incorporation, the companies must hold their first board meeting. Thereafter, the companies must hold at least 4 board meetings in a year, where there must not be more than 120 days gap between 2 consecutive meetings. One of the striking features of the present legislation is that it allows the directors to take part in the board meeting through video conferencing or any other audio-visual means. However, there is an embargo on dealing certain matters through the video conferencing or audio-visual mode. A notice of at least 7 days must be given to each of the directors for a board meeting. In case of urgency, a shorter notice may be given where at least one independent director is present at such meeting. The notice of board meeting must be sent to all the directors, otherwise the proceedings of the meeting and the resolution passed thereat may be declared as invalid by court of law. There is a case law in this, Dhanka Devi Agarwal versus Tara Properties Private Limited, whereas it was held that a decision taken in a meeting without due notice of such meeting for removal or induction would be instance of operation and mismanagement. At least two directors or one-third of the total strength, higher of the two, constitutes quorum for a board meeting. Here the directors, both personally attending or through the audio-video means, would be counted for the purposes of the quorum, according to section 174. Now let's talk about the board composition. Minimum or maximum of number of directors in a company given under section 149 clause 1 of the Companies Act 2013 requires that every company shall have a minimum number of 3 directors in the case of a public company, 2 directors in the case of a private company, and 1 director in the case of one-person company. A company can appoint maximum 15 directors without any specific compliance. A company may appoint more than 15 directors after passing a special resolution in general meeting. The restriction of maximum number of directors shall not apply to section 8 companies. Minimum number of directors in public company 3 directors, in private company 2 directors, in one-person company 1 director. Maximum number of directors is 15, which can be increased by passing a special resolution. Section 8 companies can have more than 15 directors. Section 149 clause 3 provides that every company shall have at least 1 director who has stayed in India for a total period of not less than 182 days in the previous calendar year. Further, second proviso to section 149 clause 1 read Rule 3 of Companies Appointment and Qualification of Directors, Rules 2014, following class of companies must have at least 1 woman director. Alternate directorship shall also be included while calculating the directorship of 20 companies. Section 8 company will not be counted for the purpose of maximum number of directorship. Now let's talk about maximum limit on total number of directorship, which has been fixed at 20 companies, and the maximum number of public companies in which a person can be appointed as a director shall not exceed 10. The members of company may, by special resolution, specify any lesser number of companies in which a director of the company may act as director. Quorum for board meeting requirement. It is 1/3 of its total strength or 2 directors, whichever is higher. A director participating through video conferencing or audio-visual modes will also be counted for quorum. Any fraction of a member will be rounded off as 1. Total strength shall not include directors whose places are vacant. Coming to power of board. Section 179 of the Act deals with the powers of the board. All powers to do such acts and things for which the company is authorized is vested with board of directors. But the board can act or do the things for which powers are vested with them and not with general meeting. The following powers of the board of directors shall be accessed only by means of resolutions passed at meetings at the board, namely, to make calls on shareholders in respect of money unpaid on their shares, to authorize buyback of securities under section 68, to issue securities including debentures whether in or outside India, to borrow monies, to invest the funds of the company, to grant loans or give guarantee or provide security in respect of loans, to approve financial statement and the board's report, to diversify the business of the company, to approve amalgamation, merger or reconstruction, to take over a company or acquire a controlling or substantial stake in another company, to make political contributions, to appoint or remove key managerial personnel, to appoint internal auditors and secretarial auditor. The board may, by a resolution passed at a meeting, delegate to any committee of directors, the managing director, the manager, or any other principal officer of the company, or in the case of a branch office of the company, the principal officer of the branch office, the powers specified in clause 4 to clause 6 on such conditions as it may specify. The banking company is not covered under the purview of this section. Now let's talk about restriction on powers of board. Section 180. The board can exercise the following powers only with the consent of the company by special resolution. Namely, first, to sell, lease or otherwise dispose of the whole or substantially the whole of the undertaking of the company, or where the company owns more than one undertaking of the whole or substantially the whole of any of such undertakings. Second, to invest otherwise in trust securities the amount of compensation received by it as a result of any merger or amalgamation. Third, to borrow money where the money to be borrowed together with the money already borrowed by the company will exceed aggregate of its paid up share capital, free reserves and securities premium apart from temporary loans obtained from the company's bankers in the ordinary course of business. Fourth, to remit or give time for the repayment of any debt due from a director. Contributions to charitable funds and political parties. Section 181 states the power of making contribution to bona fide charitable and other funds is available to the board subject to certain limits. Prohibitions and restrictions regarding political contributions. Section 182 states, according to Section 182 of the Act, a company other than a government company which has been in existence for less than 3 financial years may contribute any amount directly to any political party. Further, the limit of contribution to political parties is 7.5% of the average net profits during the 3 immediately preceding financial years. Now let's talk about power of board and other persons to make contribution to National Defence Fund etc. under Section 183 of the Act. The board is authorized to contribute such amount as it thinks fit to the National Defence Fund or any other fund approved by government for the purpose of national defence. The company is required to disclose in its profit and loss account the total amount or amounts contributed by it during the financial year. In PS Offshore Interland Services Private Limited versus Bombay Offshore Suppliers Limited, it was held that a closed or out of function unit of a company may be an undertaking. Also in Pramod Kumar Mittal versus Andhra Steel Corporation Limited, it was held that an undertaking in a complete and complex weft and various types of business and assets are threads which cannot be taken apart from the weft. Second, to remit or give time for repayment of any debt to the company by a director, except in the case of renewal or continuance of an advance made by a banking company to its directors in the ordinary course of business. Third, to invest excluding trust securities the amount of compensation received in respect of the compulsory acquisition of any undertaking or property of the company. Fourth, to borrow monies and where the monies to be borrowed together with the monies already borrowed by the company are more than paid up capital of the company and its free reserves. That is to say, reserves in the share premium account, general reserve, profit and loss account, and capital redemption account. The amount of temporary loans raised from banks in the ordinary course of business is excluded. This, however, does not include loans raised for the purpose of financing expenditure of a capital nature. To contribute to charitable and other funds not directly relating to the business of the company or the welfare of its employees, amounts exceeding in any financial year 50,000 or 5% of the average net profits of the 3 preceding financial years, whichever is greater. Power of directors to allot the shares. Directors of a company have powers to allot shares, but this power must be exercised bona fide for the benefit of the company as a whole, because this power is a fiduciary one. In Grant versus John Grant and Sons Private Limited, it was held that when the company not in need of further capital and the directors issued shares only to maintain their control or for defeating the wishes of the existing majority of the shareholders, the allotment was improper. In another case of Pant versus Simons and Company Limited, the directors used the shares with the object of creating a sufficient majority to enable them to pass a special resolution depriving other shareholders special rights conferred on them by the company's articles. It was held that when issue of shares to persons who are obviously meant and intended to secure the necessary statutory majority in a particular interest, it could not be fair and bona fide exercise of the power. Similarly, in the case of Pierre C. versus S. Mills and Company Limited, the directors had issued shares to enable them to resist the election of three additional directors, which would have put the existing directors in a minority on the board. The issue was held to be improper. Power of directors to make call on shares. The Articles of Association of Companies generally provide that the power to make calls in advance from the shareholders in respect of unpaid amount of shares vests in the directors. The power to make calls is a fiduciary one and shall not be used by the directors for their own benefit. This power cannot be delegated by the directors to any committee of directors, the managing agent, secretaries, treasurers, or the manager. In Poiner Alkali Works Limited versus Amriduddin Tyabji, it was held that where the articles provide that every shareholder shall be liable to pay the amount of every call to the persons and at the time and place appointed by the directors, the resolution should specify the time, place, and amount of the payment of the call. In East and West Insurance Company Limited versus Mrs. Kamla Jayanti Lal Mehta, it was held that when the time for repayment of the call is not fixed by the board of directors, the call is valid, although there was an omission in specifying the place and person whom the call is to be paid. A valid resolution making a call must state first the amount of the call, second the amount when the call should be paid, third the person to whom the payment is to be made, and fourth the place where the payment is to be made.